You know how the story originally broke? The Packers podcaster named Big B.
Shout out Big B.
Jamal Williams is inside the 30, out in front, a Green Bay touchdown.
Jamal Williams is the GOAT, the GOAT. That's all you need to know.
Let's keep it under 25 minutes, all right?
We might be too young to have a spotted cow, but we are both diehard Packers fans. Big B, let me take you back to December of 2013. The Green Bay Packers are taking on the Chicago Bears in the final week of the regular season. Winner takes home the NFC North. Loser misses the playoffs because both of them only had 7-8 wins on the year. It came down to the final minutes, came down to a few fourth down conversions from Aaron Rodgers and John Kuhn on that final drive there. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers finding Randall Cobb on a fourth down play. And everybody goes nuts in Green Bay. Me and my family go nuts down here in St. Louis. And it is one of my favorite football memories ever from that moment. I'm so glad my older brother recorded that moment. Because, the excitement I felt there, I think, really was my first taste of just how electric football can be. And now here we are in 2024, over a decade later, and the Packers are once again taking on the Chicago Bears. Well, the Bears really don't have as much at stake, but the Packers do, win or go home. And this time it's at Lambeau Field. Kind of a full circle moment, I guess you could say. I'm very excited for it. I'm Joey. Thank you for tuning into this episode 154 of the Underage Packers podcast. And joining me as always, preview Packers' last regular season game of the season. It's Big B. How are we feeling?
You know, beating the Vikings is always a very sweet moment. And, you know, this week has been awesome because you want to know why we beat the Vikings. And now we're moving on to the winner go home game versus Chicago, getting a little PTSD from last year, but, you know, different team. We should win. Jordan Love should carry us, but, you know, we'll have to discuss that later on.
Yes, there is so much to talk about this week. In the days leading up to it, there's been a lot going down. I don't share your same confidence in this game, but like
Really?
I said, I quite honestly, I think the Chicago Bears are going to win this weekend. But we will get into that later.
Okay.
But you know, let's talk a little bit about the Packers playoff scenarios. If what I think is going to happen in the Bears winning, if that does happen, the Packers still do have a path into the playoffs. If the Vikings, Seahawks, and one of Buccaneers or Saints lose, then the Packers will still make it in. The Vikings are playing Detroit. Seattle is playing Arizona. The Buccaneers are playing the Panthers, and the Saints, the Atlanta Falcons. So honestly, all three of those are possible, I would say. The Lions, we'll have to see with their scenario. It's possible. I don't know what time they're playing. But I guess it's possible by the time the Lions play, if they play on 3 on Sunday and the Cowboys don't, then I guess it's possible that they would know their fate. They would be locked into a seed before they play, but I'm not sure on that. But even then, I like the Lions there. Seattle has been falling off the last few weeks. You know, they've had some good moments. You know, the last second win against Philadelphia. And then I feel confident that either one of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or New Orleans Saints would drop a game this weekend. But it's simple for Green Bay. Just win. Don't let anybody else decide your fate. Don't put it in the hands of anybody else. Now, I did want to talk about, because today I was looking ahead to the playoffs. I don't want to allow myself to think about that. But, you know, my biggest question for the Packers, if they do end up winning this week and going into the playoffs, my biggest question about them will be just like, are they going to actually be able to put together a long, sustained stretch of good play? Their longest win streak of the season so far is 3 wins. And if they win against Chicago, that would be another 3-game win streak. But the longest win streak so far was right in the middle of the season. They had a solid win against the Chargers, I guess. Dominant wins against the Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs to follow. You can also bunch the Rams in there if you really wanted to. They had the Steelers after the Rams, and then that 3-game stretch. And that 5-game stretch is the best we've seen of the Green Bay Packers, even in that loss to Pittsburgh. But it's just going to be hard, man, because I really like what we've seen from the Packers when they're good, but they've also had some really bad moments. Now, the one positive thing about it is that the whole point of the season is growth, and we've seen so much growth from the team over the season. So hopefully a part of that growth would be able to be putting together longer stretches of good play. I think it's also important to mention that there's not a lot of NFL teams that have been able to put together long stretches this year, even the best of the best. Really, even besides the 49ers and Ravens, the two top dogs, each team has had their moments. So I that's what I think is going to make the NFL playoffs really interesting. I think the 2-1 seeds in Baltimore and San Fran are the Super Bowl favorites in my book. But other than that, a lot could happen, man. So I'm really excited for it. But with the Packers specifically, it's going to be a tough challenge for them. The playoffs started for them 2 weeks ago, and it's only going to get more difficult from here on out. I mean, Big B, any thoughts on just the Packers' lack of proof, I guess, on being able to put together long stretches of winning?
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, but then again, it is a developmental year. But
Yep.
especially looking forward to the playoffs, that should be like almost like a good sign because NFL teams like don't know what Packer team you're getting. You could be getting the terrible, god awful Packer team, or you could be getting the
I mean,
one that went out and beat the Lions and the Chiefs in back-to-back weeks on national television. So ultimately, it comes, especially for the playoffs, it comes down to what Packer team will be showing up, and they showing throughout the year that they play up to their opponents. So you never know, and
mhm.
hopefully that we'll see the Packer team that plays up to their opponents in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, the conversations will get really interesting if the Packers win a wild card game.
Mhm.
Think
Yep.
um things will start to get interesting. I'm not saying that people would be projecting them to win the Super Bowl, but whoever their opponent in the divisional round is, it would be an interesting opponent to face, even in the wild card round, I think, because of
Yep.
what you just mentioned. And also, it's like I I guess they're getting hot at the right time. I
And they're getting healthy.
Yes, that is definitely a big thing too. The Panthers win, I was kind of it was definitely ugly. The Vikings win, it's like okay, they blew them out. Jordan Love had a great performance, but the defense, which has been the Achilles heel of this team, had had a pass this week going up against Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins. So I am excited for this Bears matchup because I think at least for the fans here, we should get a good idea of where this team is at. Um, Hopefully going into the playoffs. So there's that, and I don't even want to think about it. But you mentioned last night in our group chat with our few of our friends of the possible Bowl documentary. I'm like, man, it would be a hell of a story if the Packers end up
That would
going on
be
a run here.
that would
Um,
be great.
I love how like 2 minutes ago I was like, yeah, the Bears are probably winning, and now I'm fantasizing about this. But I mean, it would take a lot of just to get one playoff win. Even to get this win on Sunday, it would take a few players having the best performance of their careers. Like that's what it takes to win playoff games.
Mhm.
It happened in 2010. You had guys like James Starks having absurd days in Philadelphia. You had Charles Woodson, probably not one of the best performances of his career, but he put together some really, really good games in that stretch. DJ Raji as well, Clay Matthews too. That's what it takes to win in the playoffs.
Yep.
So it will be exciting because it just feels like there's a lot of players that are really just on the brink of that. So it will be exciting, and I really hope this is not the last we get to see of this Packers team. Um, Big B, you mentioned this team getting healthy. I think the biggest thing in this, that quite honestly, I think would have changed the whole season if he was healthy, for that bad stretch there was Aaron Jones. in the past 2 games, being pretty much back to 100%. He's had over 100 yards. He had 120 yards on 20 carries against Minnesota. And just really, like we talked about all offseason heading into this year, it's like, man, Aaron Jones totally shifts the dynamic of this team. When all that Jordan Love has out there at wide receiver is a bunch of young guys that are, have been good, but have been a work in progress all year. Like Aaron Jones just changes everything for him. So it is kind of unfortunate looking back on it. Like, man, I truly think if Aaron Jones is healthy for some of those games, they win one or two more just from his presence.
Yep.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but I'm glad he is healthy now at this time. We'll talk a little bit more about the injuries in a little bit here, because those are also pointing in the right direction. I did want to talk a little bit about Jordan Love, though. Like we said, had a great performance against Minnesota last week. Now it is time for my weekly update of the season pace Jordan Love is on. So in the past 8 games, Big B, Jordan Love has been on a pace for 4,500 yards, 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a passer rating of 105. Those are MVP numbers.
MVP. Oh my Lord.
So that's us. And what's even crazier about it is that he is just short of in the real world, he is just short of 4,000 yards. He surpassed 30 touchdowns this past week. And that was through that is even with the marks of some really bad games against Las Vegas and Denver. And he has still found a way to make the stat sheet look pretty for his 2023 season. I did want to shout out the work that Dusty Evely and John Kuhn did for Cheesehead TV this week, breaking down. They have the weekly film room segment on Cheesehead TV, and the stuff they did on Jordan Love this week was just tremendous, and it really gave me a good idea of how much growth Jordan has made this season. Not only through like his arm talent is really starting to show, but we always knew he had that. That was the headline coming out of Utah State. But he really needed to sharpen up on some of these, the decision making being the number one thing, sharpen up on some of those things. And John and Dusty did a great job of highlighting how much growth he's made and kind of the finer details of playing quarterback. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And yeah, the growth is real and it's really exciting to watch. And I don't think it's a biased take to say that he is playing as one of the top 7 quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Yeah, he's definitely playing as a top 10 quarterback.
Yes, undoubtedly. Any other thoughts on Jordan Bigby?
Yeah, he's a 3rd straight Hall of Fame quarterback. He's just amazing. He's not mentally insane yet anyway, so that's always a positive. And he's just that guy. What else is there to say? He is just that guy. He is
Absolutely.
He is almost a GOAT status. He is almost there.
Okay.
Like that man, I'm excited to be in Canton for his Hall of Fame speech. That's how I'm gonna end that one.
I would agree. I don't even think you're delusional for saying that.
Wow, that's a first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on it a little bit too of the comparison to the guy who was quarterbacking the Packers last year. And he famously missed OTAs. And then with the team that he is playing with now, showed up and made a great effort to be there for his teammates all season long, even when he was injured. Just a stark comparison to his time in Green Bay, at least the last 4 years for that player. And now Jordan, we heard from Bo Melton today that Jordan every week of the season has been hosting dinners and film sessions at his house on every Monday since the season started. The defense is invited too. And that's what Bo added in. And I mean, as Packers fans especially, we all greatly appreciate hearing that, I think.
Yes.
So I am so happy that this is how this team is built up now. And I'm writing a column on it that should be out by the time you're listening to this. It should be out on Ohana Packers website tomorrow on just how different this 2023 team is compared to the 2022 Packers. So I'd really appreciate if you check that out because this is a key example of that. This is just such a different Packers team. It is so fun to watch. They have such a different bond. And it's a really exciting team. All right, on to the injuries this week, and then we'll talk about the Chicago Bears here. So, Josh Myers, who left the Vikings game with an injury, Dontavian Wicks and Keyshawn Nixon, all full participants on Thursday. Massive thumbs up from me. Alton Jenkins, Preston Smith, A.J. Dillon, Isaiah McDuffie, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed. Preston, Dillon, and Reed all had injuries in Minnesota game. They were limited, which I'm honestly I'm fine with them being limited. I thought they would all 5 of those be non-participants, especially Jaden Reed. And then also Luke Musgrave, the rookie tight end, is possibly playing this week, possibly being activated. So that would be really exciting, especially with the stride that Tucker Kraft has hit in the second half of the season. Adam Sinovich talked about it earlier when he was doing his press availability, that having both of them out there would allow them to do a lot of exciting things now that they know what they are capable of. Big B, thoughts on those injuries before we talk about Chicago?
Not really, but I will say Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, both of them on the field at the same time, both like right now is going to be so much fun. That is just going to
Yes.
be, like we haven't had a tight end that has been good since Jermichael Finley. Now we got 2 good tight ends, and watching them boys be out there at the same time is going to be, it's going to be some fun.
I would say
Hopefully a lot of 2 tight end sets in our near future here.
yes. Give me well, I want all the 13 personnel. I was gonna say 12 personnel, but give me Ben Sims out there too. Let him do some of the blocking, and then let Kraft and Musgrave do some great PA rollout stuff. I am so down for that. But yeah, I would say the greatest Packers had in since Jermichael Finley was Jared Cook, but he was pretty one-dimensional. He was, he's basically a good receiver, and we appreciated his time here
for like a big period of that year too. So
what did you say?
Wasn't he like hurt for like a period of that year too?
I don't remember. He probably was sick for a period of time when he got served like a live chicken head at Buffalo Wild Wings in
That is
Schwabenheim.
true.
That probably
that is disgusting.
Yeah. Sorry to disrespect Lance Kendricks in that conversation, but I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, on to the Chicago Bears. I think I said last week that I like the Vikings, or I liked the 2023 team that just so happens to be the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to come on here and say that you take away everything about the Chicago Bears as a franchise, and you just give me Coach Matt Eberflus and this group of 90 men. And or not 90, what is this, like 70 something, just like in blank uniforms, like in Madden, like when you're creating a player and it's not assigned to a team, it just has like those basic white uniforms. Put like everybody in those uniforms, nothing to do with the Bears. I like it. I like what they're doing, I guess. I see the vision, and I think Matt Eberflus is a really fun coach, and his coordinator. His defensive coordinator, like having the FBI raid his office was the best thing to happen to Matt Eberflus this season, okay? Because Matt Eberflus has been calling plays since that moment. That was after the Packers demolished theirs in week 1. Matt Eberflus has to take over play calling, and like he has really won over his players. He has become himself again. He's kind of a mellowed down version of himself in Chicago compared to what he was in Indy. And his players are really liking him. I read a really great article in The Athletic today by Adam Johns, the Bears beat reporter for them. And his players are just fully bought into his system, and that's what's been working so well. Defense tackle Justin Jones for Chicago, old buddy Justin Jones, said if we had him, meaning Eberflus, calling plays since training camp, I feel like we would have peaked a lot sooner. And they have absolutely peaked. They are one of the best defenses in the NFL right now. Since week 5, Adam mentioned this in our article. Since week 5, the Bears rank first in the league in run defense, 6th in total yards, 7th in points per game, and 5th in expected points added. They or EPA. They lead the league in interceptions since then. This team has 18 turnovers in the last 6 games. They have Jalen Johnson, the safety, Tremaine Edmonds, Tyreek Stevenson. All three of those guys have 4 interceptions each. They have a +2 turnover differential. And if they didn't have a bad first 4 weeks of the season, it would be much higher. They have Montez Sweat, and he has completely rejuvenated this defense as well, just by his energy, his presence. And this defense has really turned around, and the Bears are looking like a solid team. They have gone 5-2 in the last 7. A big part and that is their defense, obviously. And then also it's that Justin Fields is playing the best football of his career. Now, just like Justin Fields' old Ohio State teammate, Josh Myers, just because he's playing the best football of his career doesn't mean that it's top-notch stuff, all right? Like, it's not a high bar, but Justin Fields is playing at a solid level, better than anybody has ever seen him before in the NFL. And he is just playing so much more confidently. Which if you're an athletic quarterback who does stuff out of the pocket, you have to be confident, or else you're not going to succeed in the NFL. Okay, you have to have the confidence to do some like dumb stuff that only you can pull off. If you don't have that confidence, if you don't have the confidence of Brett Favre, like it's not going to work out for you. All right, no matter how much God-given athletic ability you have. And Justin Fields is finally finding some confidence. Some of that, I think, maybe I listened to the Locked On podcast today, where Peter Bukowski had the Bears host on, and basically he said that Justin Fields like thought his career in Chicago would be over after the season, so he's just been like saying F it this last half of the season and like allowing himself to have fun, and that might have allowed him to like play himself in to more years with Chicago. Now, there's a good debate going on right now everywhere, basically, on what the Bears should do with their first overall pick. Because, like, while I don't know how I feel about this conversation, because honestly, I haven't watched enough Justin Fields to be able to say. I've just been going along with the narrative because it's like what I'd like to believe, that he has sucked and will always suck. But I just this whole conversation to me just like screams impatience with allowing quarterbacks to develop. People are debating whether the Bears, with their first overall pick, should draft Caleb Williams, or if they trade down and select whoever else, a non-quarterback, and stick with Justin Fields. That's an interesting conversation that people will have plenty of time to talk about once the Bears season ends this Sunday. They'll have 3 months to talk about it. Precisely. So, other than that, though, that's Bears offense. Khalil Herbert, the running back, has also been doing really good. And yeah, I have a few more closing thoughts on Chicago, but Big B, have you been paying attention to the Bears on this pretty good run they've been having?
Yeah, I mean, I paid a little bit of attention to them, and mostly all that I've gained from that is seeing that their offensive line is gelling. Their defense has been playing phenomenal football. Justin Fields has been playing incredible compared to what he's been looking like in previous seasons and even earlier this year. And they're getting DJ Moore the ball, which is, always a great idea. And he's been a huge part in Justin Fields playing more confidently, like you mentioned. And this entire Bears team seems like it's going in the right direction finally.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a pretty scary team, but they're still the Chicago Bears. They're still playing the Green Bay Packers, who have owned them for 30 plus years. And Jordan Love, already put a stake in the Chicago franchise. And I feel confident, but this is going to be a way tougher battle than it was week 1, because the Bears are a completely different team, but also the Packers are a completely different team. So this is going to be a fun one to see what happens this Sunday, and hopefully the Packers will be on the right side of it.
Yes. So a lot of things you mentioned there. First, on just the way this team is trending. It's obviously really reminiscent of the 2022 Lions. Um,
Mhm.
Now the Lions didn't find out they were eliminated from the playoffs until like 30 minutes before they went out there against the Packers. The Bears have this whole week knowing that, and I'm sure they would like to get some revenge for the past 3 decades, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, but also, like you mentioned, like just the main thing that is swaying my confidence, like, it is just that it's the Bears. Like that's like it sounds so like elementary on my reasoning there, but like the one of the main reasons like I have confidence in the Packers in this game is because it's the Bears. They
Yeah,
they
it's
are
still the Bears.
Exactly. They are undoubtedly going to find a way to mess up this game. And
Exactly.
I can't wait. I cannot wait to be
Mhm.
playing the Happy Schnapps combo rendition of the Bears Still Suck after this. Okay. Are you kidding me? It's going to be
Mhm.
so sweet. It never gets old. Um,
No.
yeah, that's the main reason there. Um, I will say also about this Bears team, there was quite a few former Packers. Luke Getzey has done a good job recruiting them over. You have Lucas Patrick. You have Robert Tunyon. Um, EQ St. Brown, of course. Um, and what I mainly want to say is just on Mercedes Lewis, who is one of my favorite football players ever, is how cool it is that he might like, depending if he plays another year with Chicago, he could really be like one of the players that is viewed as like a player who set the way, show them the winning way. He
Mhm.
knows what it looks like on both ends. He played a decade with Jacksonville where they were garbage, and then he saw what it was like to be a part of a winning team in Jacksonville or in Green Bay for a few years, and now he gets to add another layer to his legacy by possibly being a leader on his way out in Chicago. Okay, final closing notes here on Chicago. First, just biggest question for me is going to be, will the Bears be able to keep up with the Packers offense? The Bears offensively, we spent a little bit of time praising him and the Justin Fields. Um, but are they going to be able to turn as many field goals into touchdowns? I don't know if they can keep up pace with the Packers. So for me, the Packers have to make this game a shootout. Now, they are going up against a very, very good Bears defense. So that makes it a challenge. However, we've seen the Packers go into games against really good defenses, some of the top in the league, the Chiefs, the Lions, and they've been able to craft the game story how they want. Um, it can be a shootout. We've seen them do that before this season, but we've also seen them be able to just control the time. Like against the Chiefs, by owning the time of possession in the first 3 quarters. Now, a part of that game plan was probably keeping the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. You don't need to worry about that as much against Justin Fields. Um, Now, what I think will likely end up happening is that this Bears defense will put a really tough test against Jordan Love. I I worry that Jordan, he's played really well against the blitz this season. I think the Bears are going to pick up on that. They don't blitz as much as any other NFL team. The Vikings were the number one in blitz percentage. They tried against Jordan Love. It did not work. I'm not worried about that. But I'm worried that this Bears secondary and back end is just really solid. Um, so I'm a little bit worried about that. It's going to be a massive test for the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love this week. So that's what I think will happen. Big B, what do you predict will happen this week? Other than I saw a TB channel in Green Bay today did like a segment where they were interviewing fans in the pro shop, and some old guy, I think his name was William, said Packers are winning 59-0. That guy's a legend. So do you have a more
Yes.
in-depth prediction than that?
Packers are winning 59-0. But no. I think that this will probably be more of a defensive battle than anything. Because Joe Barry has seemed to have Luke Getzey's number in their previous matchups. The Packers defense has played very decent versus the Chicago since Getzey has been in Chicago. Um, so I'm probably gonna go around like maybe like a 28, like 24 type game, something close, maybe like in the 20s. I definitely see that happening, but I could also see the Packers winning like again, like 33 to like 17 again. So,
Yeah.
I guess see both ways, but I definitely think it's going to be a lot closer.
Yeah, I agree. You know what's interesting, as I was just thinking while you were answering there, is like the Bears defense could win this game for Chicago. The Packers
Mhm.
defense can't do that. They cannot win a
Yeah.
game. We've seen that so many
Yep.
times this season. If the offense is having an off day, then the defense isn't going to step up. They're going to fold.
Yep.
Um, but on the flip side, the Bears offense is not winning this game for the Bears.
Yep.
They have to have their defense having a good game.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really interesting matchup. And I was just looking at the Packers schedule, and I think you could say this is one of the toughest games of the year. Obviously the Chiefs and Lions, the Lions twice are two tough opponents. Um, the Broncos, the Packers got them when they were getting hot. But other than that, like I think you put the Bears shoot right behind the Lions and Kansas City. This Bears team, don't take them lightly. They're playing good. Um, but also they're the Chicago Bears. Okay. I don't like, as much as I have my worries about this game, I'm chilling a little bit by the fact that it's the Chicago Bears franchise.
Yes. And I will say one key I think to winning this game is Matt LaFleur being in his bag and him having a great day play
Yes.
calling. I think that will be probably a big deciding factor in this game is if Matt, goes in his bag and pulls out a few tricks.
Yes. Yeah, that week one game, we do Matt LaFleur, the bag wasn't fully open because it
Mhm.
never is in week one. Um, especially in the modern NFL where hardly any stars are playing significant time in the preseason. Um, so he wasn't fully in his bag, but the zipper was a little bit open, compared to weeks 3 through whatever, and he got super conservative and he put a lock on that thing. Um,
Mhm.
but so now we will get to see how much fun he can have against Chicago. And yeah,
Yes.
this is gonna be such a fun matchup. If I didn't have any rooting stakes in this, I'd be sitting on the edge of my seat with some popcorn to watch this game, I think.
Oh yeah.
All right, the time has come. Our final. It's so scary doing this because, I remember last year, recording our Lions preview, and just like we might not be doing this ever ever again. So, or we could be doing it like literally in 7 days. So,
Yeah.
on to it. Our key to the game for me, it is winning the turnover battle. It's so easy. It's such an easy pick, but against this Bears team, you have to do it. Okay. I mean, it can just be such a momentum killer against an offense
Mhm.
that, while improved from its past versions, it's still not one of the best. You can't have turnovers. You can't give them the ball anymore. Can't give them any
Yes.
more possessions. And yeah, I also don't want Jordan Love to have any reason to lose the confidence he's been playing with the last few weeks. Big B, what do you got here for our biggest key?
Yeah, my key is not beating ourselves. And when I say not beating ourselves, I mean the defense and the special teams not screwing
Yeah,
up as much. I have full faith in this offense to put up points on the board because, we've seen it. We've seen Jordan Love go out and face some great defenses and put up a lot of points. But the one thing that is scaring me a little bit is the defense and the special teams because you never know when they're going to have their off day. You never know when they're going to
yeah.
bust open some terrible mistakes. We've seen the drop punt from Samori last week, and we've seen this defense just all year just be atrociously terrible. So I just hope we don't see the worst of that come to fruition this Sunday.
Yes, I would agree with you. All right, on to our biggest concern. It's what I mentioned earlier of early season Jordan Love returns. Those 5 weeks from the past 30 years where we were unsure about the quarterback future in Green Bay. Those 5 weeks out of the thousands of the past 30 years. Um, I'm worried that version returns. This is the biggest game of his young career. And that the defense puts too much challenge from him. I love him. I think he's a great quarterback, but this is going to be a tough challenge for him. And I guess my biggest worry is I think he's going to have a good game. We know he can make plays. Um, but I feel like eventually there's going to be a moment in those final minutes there where he throws a bad interception. The bad decision making from him comes out again. I'm
Why are you
sorry.
bringing this out in the universe, dude? Come on, man. We've been
I
going
wish
so good here with the positive vibes. Now all of a sudden this week you're so negative, and I don't understand why. Like, come on.
I don't know, man.
That's just terrible.
I've just been hurt before, I guess.
I guess that fair enough, I guess.
What is your biggest concern here, Big B?
My biggest concern is Justin Fields doing, Justin Fields things. Mainly his scrambling ability
Yeah.
has me terrified. It's always scary going up against these mobile quarterbacks because history has told us this Green Bay defense does not play good against mobile quarterbacks. But Packers have done very well against Justin Fields at keeping him in the pocket, but especially recently, Rashawn Gary hasn't been the most disciplined edge rusher, and yeah, he's been crashing in a lot and letting the quarterbacks escape and roll out and make some plays. So hopefully, Rashawn's a little more disciplined this week, and hopefully Justin Fields doesn't, take advantage of that.
Yes, another big thing that will play into that will be the health of the three starting inside backers.
Yes.
Like we mentioned earlier, let me pull up the injury report here again. So Quay Walker was a full participant along with Devondre, which is very good. Now Isaiah McDuffie not practicing, which is not great. But if Quay and Devondre are out there, then they will be okay in that realm.
Yes.
Justin Fields is very good. And I'm sure. I bet Quay and Justin were teammates at Georgia at one point in time, but I'm not sure. Justin might have transferred before Quay got there. I'm not sure. What else? So and then to your point on Rashawn, yeah, that's definitely a good point on Gary there. If I was Packers, I'd be playing a lot of Lucas Van Ness and JJ Edenagbar this week. That's what I'd be going with. Obviously, Preston and Rashad should be out there on, well, I was going to say third downs, but that's when it's those mobile quarterbacks can really kill you because they'll say, shoot, I'm putting this under my arm and praying for my life.
Yeah.
It's what Brady Cook did so well for Mizzou this year. So that will be interesting to see the personnel packages on for the outside linebackers there. All right, finally, who is going off? We talked about it earlier. If you're going to have playoff runs, if you're going to make it into the playoffs, you need to have some career performances from some players, and it is time to predict who those players will be. For me, I'm saying Bo Melton is going to do it again. He had 100 yards last week, and I think Packers fans forgot about the talent this young man has. He is not another practice squad for lifer like Juwan Winfrey was. This man has some actual talent, and sorry, Juwan Winfrey, for making the catch straight there. But Bo Melton ran a 4.330. We saw his speed play off in two situations. Not only on the touchdown he had, he comes he had who had a great breakdown on this? It was Kuhn. Broke down Melton on his touchdown, where he goes in motion, and the Vikings have to pass this guy off, and he's and then he just does a crosser, and shoot, man, going across middle like that, he can definitely use the speed. And then we also saw it on the two deep pass catches he had, one from Clifford and one from Love. He can use the speed, and I will be yelling, and I will be acting like a maniac, man. If the Packers they've liked having some explosives on that first drive. So if they pull out the Bo Melton special, the Melton cheese, the fondue to open up this game against the Bears. Ooh, buddy.
Okay.
I'm excited now.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to do this math. Big B, who do you got going off this week?
Yeah, well, I got Tucker Kraft going off this week. I know Luke Musgrave could be coming back, but knowing the Packers, he won't play, all the snaps. He'll have a snap count, and Tucker Kraft will be the tight end one this week. So I hoping Tucker Kraft goes off this week, and we need him to go off. I need fantasy reasons, and also, it would be nice to see Tucker Kraft going off. So I want to see 2 touchdowns from Tucker Kraft this week. It is a Tucker Kraft legacy game is in
Oh, yeah.
store for us, ladies and gentlemen, and it's going to be an absolute blast to watch. Let's go, baby.
All right, this conversation has truly made me hyped for this Sunday's game. Still feel a little bit nervous. But man, at the end of the day, I'm going to be a homer and say that the Packers are winning this one. All right.
Oh yeah.
I cannot wait for it, no matter what happens. So, me and Big B will be back early next week. I'm willing to commit to if the Packers end up making the playoffs. We'll go back to the format we did in our first season of 2 episodes a week, one to recap and then one to preview. We'll go
Whoa.
balls to the wall if the Packers makes the playoffs. All right, book it down in your
Wow.
calendars, folks.
That's huge news.
Yeah, I guess I should have asked for your consent before I committed
Yeah,
on the
I
airways
mean,
here.
yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do it.
I'm assuming you have nothing to do with your life besides get hyped about the Packers next week.
That is also very true.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have plenty to get hype about, though. We appreciate you tuning into this episode. Let us know your thoughts on this episode and then also the matchup coming up here. We'd appreciate it. Also, if you follow us on all the socials. And as always, go Pack Go.